Hello and welcome to the Walk Around podcast powered by JM&A Group. If you are in the automotive industry, you have found the place for you. I am one of your hosts, Mark Spoto, joined by always Elliot Shore.
Hello, hello.
And today we are welcoming AJ Detrick on the podcast. AJ is the head of sales for Polestar in the US. His role is overseeing all sales and retail operations for the brand, and he has seen tremendous growth over the last several years and plays a big role in its brand, marketing, its sales, and a critical role in forecasting future growth and demand. Prior to Polestar, AJ was at corporate in Volvo, and he has experience in the dealer world, working at several automotive dealer groups across the US. You know, Elliot, AJ, when you think about the explosion of EV vehicles coming to the market, AJ just shared some really interesting and insightful perspective with us.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear about Polestar's, go-to-market plans, how they're already selling vehicles, and why they made the decisions they did. Sounds like they have a pretty good plan in order.
And we also learn a thing or two about your preferences for IKEA.
Oh boy.
Okay, so here we go. Let's take a walk around with AJ Detrick. AJ, welcome to the Walk Around podcast. It's great to have you here. Thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Absolutely. Great to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me.
So Polestar has just been on a rocket ship of acceleration and growth, and we're curious right off the bat, what was it like launching a brand? That's got to be somewhat intimidating, and just talk to us about that process and what went into it.
Yeah, it's exhilarating, that's for sure. Coming from a background when you're at a different OEM and established for many years, and you look at starting a new brand, it's fun, it's exciting. Obviously, there's always a fear of the unknown, but you've got to rely on what you know and rely on the industry facts, and everything will prevail from there. The company started in late 2020 selling cars in the States.
Right.
I came shortly thereafter. I started in March of 21 with the company. I was with a sister brand right before. But I came into, we had a few stores open. We were in a rapid network expansion mode. Cars were starting to fly out the door. So for me, it was exciting to kind of see something different. You come from that typical, what's going on, you've got your numbers, where you're going every month, to, okay, who's our customer? How do we get to them? What's the next best spot for us to put a space? What's the next evolving area for EV? And that's where it really gets fun for me. And, still every day too.
Yeah, it must be really cool to kind of, it's kind of like being an entrepreneur in
a startup,
but in a sort of controlled and less risky environment, maybe. I think we all know Polestar's sister company is Volvo,
right? And
Volvo's enjoyed tremendous success in the U.S. for many years, but even of recent, just really great success, Volvo. But I'm curious. One of the things we've talked about a lot on this podcast has been a pretty controversial topic around direct to consumer, and a lot of your competitors are making a kind of going clear line in the sand with going to direct to consumer. And Polestar decided to take a different approach. You're curious if you could talk about that approach you guys took and why you took it.
Yeah, I think when you start to look at it, not that the way of direct to consumer is necessarily a bad thing for the other OEs that are doing it, but
Sure.
for us, it comes down to the interpersonal relationship. The ability to go and speak to one of our owners or one of their managers or one of their specialists and have somebody that is there when you go back, not for the first car, but the second car and the third car and the fourth car. And you create that longevity in that relationship. And I think that's one of the most important things. And then you also look at the serviceability aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to come pick up your car? We have space specialists. We have managers that on the way to work, pick up a customer's car for service, bring it back to them at night, leave them a loaner. I think that relationship building aspect and that sense of secureness, for a consumer, I think that's really important when you start to look at the longevity of Polestar and where we want to go as a company.
So speaking of that, AJ, do you think that relationship plays heavily into your sales goal? Because, you've stated that 2022, you're looking at 50,000 retail sales. And is that relationship with the dealer vital in that goal? And how are you navigating the challenges that we're seeing with the industry?
Yeah, I think when you look long term, and obviously, our numbers are global numbers, but speaking specifically to North America and the States for myself, yeah, it plays heavily. We can speak to our partners, we can understand the industry trends that are going on in their backyard. And California might be different from Texas, who's different from Detroit, Michigan, who's different from New York, right? Every market's different, every dynamic's different. The seasons are different, and I think having that close relationship, we can understand, what's working in California might not work in Florida. What's working in Florida might not work in New York. And having a line to them, I think, is what's important too, because you get to know your customer better,
Right. It's a very pragmatic approach in the sense of like, well, I'd like to have someone that my customer can have a relationship with.
Sure.
Wow. I'd like to have a place where they can service their vehicle easily. Right. And yeah, from a corporate perspective, it's great to have local intel on the ground to know, what's going to work and what's not working by region. So, I think it makes very practical sense. Was that decision taken lightly? Was there a moment where Polestar was kind of teetering on the edge of that decision, or was it always clear go?
I think our CEO's vision, at least Greg in the States vision, was really to lean on the franchise model and lean on our strong partners. We partner with Volvo stores, people that have a Volvo franchise today. It's people that we know, it's people that we're comfortable with, and we know how they operate, right? And we know their relationships with customers. I spend a lot of time in the stores, at least as much as I can. And I think what's exciting for me is to see those relationships and how they flourished since they purchased their car. There's a constant communication. The other cool thing is, when you start to look at employee turnover, we don't have a high employee turnover rate at the spaces, right? So when I look at that long-term vision, I do think that customer who bought one car is going to come back and buy a second or third off that specialist or off that manager and build that long-term relationship. And for me, that's really important as we build a brand and we look at the years forward.
Yeah, we've had the privilege of going to a Volvo meeting,
sure,
a dealer meeting, and recently. And one of the things that struck me is the Volvo dealers and the Polestar dealers as well. They are as much fans as they are dealers. It's kind of it was an interesting dynamic. The Volvo dealers are a passionate group and the Polestar dealer, they are just absolutely passionate for the brand. And that makes perfect sense to have your biggest fans out in front.
Yeah. And do you think that plays into the lack of turnover? Like, what do you think is unique about that experience that you've been able to maintain lack of or a small amount of turnover?
Listen, I think when you look at the heritage of where we evolved from as a company in Polestar and our sister company, I think when you look at that heritage of a company and you think of where that company started and what they laid their laurels on, I think that speaks volumes for why we do have so many fans. And it's funny when you look at the network and you look at the base of dealers that we have, they're immersed in everything.
They really are.
These are dealer principals that are involved day to day. They talk to customers. They love the business. They love what they're selling. And, they want to be part of the EV ride. And I think that's an important thing for us. And it's exciting that we have such enthusiasts that we can call partners.
Sure. So if I could follow up on that, so is the inventory model different? Or is it more of a just in time? How does the sales process differ from, say, the sister company or, how does that work?
Yeah, from a traditional OE standpoint, any other of the big box brands, we're an order to delivery model. So if you're a customer, you've got a couple different ways you can buy a car from us. The main way is through our configurator. You go on, build your car, you pick the specs you want. Do you want a long range single motor? Do you want a dual motor? Your colors, your packages, so on and so forth. You create your order, you create your order ID, you place your order and your deposit, and then we'll give you a time frame as far as how long it's going to take to get the car to you. there's a couple different options when it comes to that. If I have anything available, we can match a car sooner. If not, it goes through a traditional order to delivery process, which could take a few months. The second part of this is we have a pre-configurator, and that's cars that are available for immediate delivery. So you or I might need a car today, we might not, but God forbid something happens, we own a car that might break down, or my job changes and I don't have a car with my job anymore. I have the ability to go on the pre-configurator, pick a car that might be available today or within a week, and get a car quicker. So we do have a subset of vehicles that we're kind of hitting the entire spectrum of customers who are okay and willing to wait, and the customers who have an immediate need. And we
Makes
make
a lot of sense.
Makes a ton of sense. So, you mentioned the EV ride, AJ, and let's talk a little bit about that and where that's going. Are you seeing what?
No, it is a ride.
It is a ride. I mean,
it's
we are
a real
seeing
ride.
and just avalanche of models, right, coming out from a variety of different, all really big players in the industry, as well as some new entrants into the business. So as you look at the Polestar brand and what you guys are doing, how do you differentiate when, several years from now or sooner, consumers are going to have a lot more choice when it comes to EV?
Yeah, I think, one of the single most things that is top of mind for me when you ask this question is we're one of two brands that has a global footprint.
Right.
So if you think about that, we came in at the beginning of really this EV launch per se.
Right.
There's a lot of brands that are coming out with EVs, and they're great brands and they're going to build great cars. But we really got into the beginning when we set out to put Polestar on the map. It was with the true EV vision to be all electric and to be in that game. And I think getting in early, right, and getting ourselves out there created some good awareness. But I think our product stands for itself, and I think our history stands for itself as well. So I think that helps us differentiate. There are a lot of EVs coming out, and everybody's starting to get into the game. But I think some manufacturers are a little late to the game,
Right.
and jumping to the pool. And I think that we have that advantage. We've put some customers and cars on the road, and my goal as head of sales is really to keep them in a car and not just sell them one car, because it's not about the first car, it's about the second and third, and really making them lifers of the brand.
Right. Yeah. We debate a lot about who's going to survive, kind of, quite frankly. I mean, it's funny, you can add up all the production totals of all the manufacturers right now for the next couple of years, and it will need a 25 million SAR in order to hit those production numbers. So it's not going to work out for somebody. But I think you got to look too at the growth pattern, right? Look at the growth pattern of EV that's coming over the next few years. The share of market for EV 22 to 23 is going to go up about 40%, projected to do the same. The share of total industry by 2026 is expected to be over 20%, close to 25%. So you start to look at numbers like that and you're like, okay, maybe EV is here to stay. And, we're here to stay. I can promise you that. Right. Well, it's funny.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. There might be a little segment in Sure Thing coming up.
Maybe challenging that number.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
So, AJ, let's talk a bit, continuing on the EV ride here. What's the perspective right now, do you think, from the consumer? We've heard varying degrees of adoption, right, with range anxiety and concerns about battery. Do you think we're turning a corner in terms of consumers willing to adopt more EVs? And then this is a little bit of a two-part question, but how should dealers start to think differently about their customers when it relates to EV?
Yeah, so I'll give you two perspectives. I'll give you my initial perspective when I, jumped into my first Polestar 2 and really experienced a full EV life for the first week in the company. I got in my car and I looked at a gauge and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got X amount of miles of range instead of a gas gauge, right? So I knew my typical habits every day were when I was going to fill up, where I was going, and what I was doing. And as I drove the car more and more, I realized, well, hold on a second. I don't drive 200, 250, 300 miles a day. I might drive that in a week, right? And I think you've got to get over that mental hurdle of, oh my, I can't do this electric life. What happens if I run out of charge? Well, if you think about your every week and your every day, you're not running out of charge. And you start looking at the network, you've got Electrify America out there, Charge Point. you start looking at all the maps. It's really not that hard to charge a car and to figure it out. The cool thing about our cars is with our Google infotainment, you can map out your entire route. I drive to Boston and I drive to DC to visit two of our partners. I stop once. I know where to hit what charging station I'm going to hit. I know how long I have to be there. It maps everything out for me. It's easy, right? Once you get past that hurdle, I think that's one of the biggest things. And it really comes down to education. What we've been able to do, our head of marketing, Gabe Dunn, put together a pretty cool program last year called the At Your Location Test Drive. And what we do is we've got a test drive cars all around the country in the core markets, and a customer can go on and book a test drive. We bring the car to their house. They get to drive it at their convenience with one of our specialists. They get to learn about the car and they get to feel comfortable in their element. What that has done is I think it's helped take a lot of angst away on EV living and that life of what we're used to, of pulling off to a gas station or not pulling off to a gas station. Sure. Now it's, let me grab a coffee, charge for 20 minutes or a half hour and go on my merry way, right? And I think that us going to market and giving consumers a little bit of ease and helping them understand what EV life is all about. And I keep referring to EV life because, we're creating this different wave of vehicles and people are scared to go into it, but it's no different than driving an internal combustion. It's just how you either charge or fuel up at that point. So I think that's helped us a lot.
I think you said an interesting point that's good for dealers to hear, which is the sales process is an education opportunity for your consumers.
It's a wonderful point.
Yeah,
it really is. We've heard that a lot in terms of dealer relevancy. How does dealers stay relevant? And the reality is the cars are they have more technology than ever. They're more complex than ever. I get in my car, I don't even know half of the things that are beeping at me. And it's probably because I didn't, maybe have enough education on it. And that would be valuable for me. I would spend more time in the process if I had valuable education coming at me about my vehicle.
But I think what's cool too is if we start to look at our the employees that are coming into our stores and our specialists and our product specialists, what's really neat is they're not your traditional salesperson from an automotive dealership. We've got people coming in from Apple, we've got people coming in from luxury brands, right? People that love to talk to people, but we also have people that love technology. And that makes it's more comfortable for a customer to talk to somebody that is ingrained and knows, because it puts them at ease. And again, it's just an education, and once you get it, it's just a normal day.
So switching gears a little bit, how is the franchise, how many stores are out there, Polestar stores are out there in the US? And do you have, serious growth plans or more of a, kind of measured approach to that? How are you guys approaching that?
Very strong growth plans. We're over 30 right now with the intentions to grow pretty expansive across the Northeast, the South, Central, the West. Obviously, everybody knows that the West is a hotbed for EV, but what's really cool is we're starting to see a migration in Texas, cities like Austin putting in 1,400 chargers with Austin Energy. You're starting to see an explosion in Florida, the tri-states and it's infrastructure too, right? So what started in California is starting to migrate across the country, and there's a lot of stations popping up. So it makes it a lot easier. But we're looking at the pockets and where to go next. And we've got a really strong network team. Our head of network, Steve Rod, is looking daily at where's the next best place to be. And it might not be today, it might be tomorrow. But we're always evolving, that's for sure.
What's been a big surprise for you thus far, AJ? Anything that you were kind of not seeing that one coming as you've been rolling out this plan?
There's got to be
something.
Oh, that's a good one. You guys finally got me with the curveball. I think for me is maybe in talking to some of the customers and realizing that there's this big following, right? There's a divide, right? There's the customer who doesn't know about EV. They're like, oh, geez, what's an electric vehicle? Man, okay, you mean my next car is, I might have to go electric. Okay, how do I do that? What do I do, right? And then there's a customer that you talk to, and they've been so immersed, you almost feel like they've been driving an electric vehicle for the last 30 years. And I think that's what's been interesting for me. We meet a lot of people along the way at trade shows and auto shows and these test drive events, and it's amazing how strong of a following there is, but there's so much more opportunity to get customers in front of an EV as well. We just got done last weekend. We were in, or the weekend before, I apologize. We were in Miami for Electrify Expo. We'll be in Austin in November. We were in Seattle. We were in the Tri-State, California. So we're trying to get in front of everybody, but a lot of those people are new to electric. They're new to the EV world.
Yeah, I love when Automotive News puts out that ranking of EV by states. I think they do that every month or so. And I think it's California, and then Florida was number 2 most recently. Yeah, which is somewhat,
surprising.
A bit.
I think so.
I think it is a bit surprising to see Florida up there.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I know you guys are based out of Florida. You've got Florida Power and Light, though, who is really immersed in the EV world. They're doing a tremendous amount of work building out infrastructure, tremendous amount of work as far as education goes. We've done some events with them. They own a gamut of EVs when it comes to vehicles that they take to their trade shows and just let customers in Florida see them, outside of Polestar, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's definitely, I can tell you in my neighborhood, there's pretty much a Tesla. Every third car is a Tesla.
I gotta get business cards then. We gotta fix that.
Absolutely.
So AJ, you talked about reaching out and hearing from a lot of customers. Where do you see their buying preferences trending? Are people buying EVs more for the environmental impact?
Is it a tech factor?
Is it a tech thing?
Is it a cool thing?
Gas savings, or I'm assuming it kind of runs the gamut. But what do you see as kind of the main factors right now?
I'd say it's a good mix. Sustainability is at the core of everything we believe in as a company. So, the lights just went out in here.
That's all right. You look good in a glow light.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
See how sustainable we are. We make sure that wasn't planned, by the way.
You care about energy.
That's right. Conserving energy as you're talking about energy.
Timing on that one. But no, I think there's a true factor to sustainability. I think everybody is looking at EV as the environmental aspects of it. Obviously, the cost of owning an EV is far less than fuel, especially today. So there's that factor as well. And yeah, let's be real. There are true technology gurus out there that love the tech that comes with an EV car. Yeah. The fact that I can turn on my lights in my house from my car is pretty damn cool. So there's that aspect as well. I think it's a gamut probably of all that.
Yeah, well, personally, what I'm looking forward to is never going and pumping gas again. Although I do like Wawa, so I will admit.
You do like their subs, don't you?
I do. They also
Wawa, you sound like you're from Pennsylvania there.
Wawa has taken over South Florida.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
When you see corner,
all of a sudden, out of nowhere. So we've all become Wawa pretzel fans and all.
At least in South Florida. I don't know about the rest of the state.
Orlando was the one we would always stop on the way back from Disney.
I'm a Pennsylvania guy at heart, and that's a Pennsylvania staple. So
that's right. Did you know Wawa, Pennsylvania is a city, and that's what Wawa is named after?
I did not know that.
Yes, we are full.
Look at what we're learning.
We are full of fun facts.
Pretty good sandwich, right? and Apple fun fact, they have charging stations at some as well.
They sure do.
We do. We've mentioned that on a previous episode that in the morning you can't find an open charger at the Wawa, which is really fascinating.
That's my go-to. It's my go-to when I go to Philly. So,
yeah.
All right. So I think it's time maybe for a sure thing.
Wow.
If you're ready.
Yeah.
Of course, Elliot.
Yeah.
AJ, are you ready? You may have heard about this segment. I don't know.
It is sweeping the nation.
It is sweeping the podcast nation.
Let's see.
Our Elliot here, he has opinions and he has some hot takes.
That's right.
Throughout his adventures and travels. We ask him to share some of those hot takes, and then we ask our guests, is that a sure thing or not?
Right.
So, Elliot, let's see what you got today.
Yeah, and we kind of hit on it, and you actually threw out a number of 20 to 25%, and I want to make sure I got this right. 26, that the percentage of EVs being sold will be about 20 to 25% by 2026.
Seems like an aggressive number.
It does, but I believe that by 2026 it'll be 30%. That's what I believe. I do. I think it'll be 30, and I think it'll be approaching 50% by the turn of the decade, 2030. Sure thing or not a sure thing, AJ?
Boy, I go by industry experts, but I love your optimism. So I might give you a sure thing just on optimism.
All right.
I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
Thank you.
Of course, AJ's going to be all for
That's
that.
right. I like optimism. Right. There's a whole book on how optimism is the key to life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
all right, we're off to a good start.
All right, cool. Well, we'll see how we go. We're gonna go off the rails a little bit here. So we all know Volvo is a Swedish brand, and Polestar has its roots in Sweden. I believe it does. I'm hopefully correct there. Yes, thank you.
I was just at headquarters last week, so I hope so.
Yes, we'll talk to the research team about that if not. No, but we all know that Volvo is probably one of the most well-known Swedish brands of all time. And we did a bit of research, and we're going to leave Volvo off of this sure thing, to be fair, Volvo and Polestar. But I was very surprised when I looked at the list of the most famous Swedish brands of all time. And yes, they include a litany of wonders, such as Ericsson Electronics, multinational electronic brand. I know Mark's personal favorite,
IKEA.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Who doesn't love meatballs?
Who's not a fan of IKEA?
Right. And
this guy.
I hate IKEA. Well, hate's a strong word. But
we were just about to get some free samples from IKEA in our show.
Yes.
And then you had to say all right, keep going.
Maybe you need a better experience. We'll take you to IKEA.
H&M, I was surprised. Popular department store, very, very nice department store.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the best Swedish brand of all time is Spotify, without a doubt. It has got to be Spotify. A lot of people don't know Spotify is a Swedish brand.
That's right.
But and one of the reasons I love Spotify the most is because right now, if you walk over to your Alexa and say, Alexa, play the Walk Around podcast, it's going to play the Walk Around podcast on Spotify. It absolutely will. So Spotify is my sure thing for the best Swedish brand of all time, excluding Volvo and Polestar. Sure thing or not a sure thing?
I've got to give you Polestar as a number one sure thing, but I will go with Spotify as number two, just because it introduced the family plan and my kids can't change my music anymore.
Wasn't that the best? For so many years, they didn't have the family plan.
That's right.
And now I told my kids, I got them their own account. They think I'm like
life-changing.
They can't change your music on you. Yeah,
they think I'm like the most generous person ever. It was so frustrating. My daily mix was including, my daughter's Justin Bieber and that type of stuff. It was not a good experience, but
That's
yes, we've overcome that. All right, I'm 2 for 2 today.
2 for 2. This might be unprecedented, AJ. Just to let you know.
I think this one's going to get a little more controversial.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
AJ, we got to know you a little bit beforehand. We know you're big into youth sports and coaching and really getting involved in youth sports. And we all know that youth sports has really taken off in America. And to the point where I believe that youth sports and the whole travel sports industry, I think it's out of control. I think it needs to be reined in. And so I believe that the youth sports in America has officially gone a little bananas in terms of the intensity on the children. Sure thing or not a sure thing?
I got to be honest. I'm embedded in this world, and I'm that guy that's in Florida playing baseball that lives in New Jersey, right? So,
wait, with your 10-year-old.
We had a feeling.
14 and 15-year-old, yes. And I'm also going overseas to play soccer this summer.
What if we were to say it this way? Travel sports has completely ruined city league recreational sports for youth. Is that a sure thing?
No, I would say no. I would say
okay.
And I'll tell you why, because I've coached for we're going on 12 years now since my son started playing t-ball, and we still see the numbers. It's not just about the club sports or the pay to play sports. I think we still see the kids coming out to have fun, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's about fun. Kids that want to play above and beyond fun, by all means, you have club sports, but we still have kids that come out and smile and high five and have a blast on a Saturday or Sunday. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think it comes down to how you promote it too, right?
Right.
If you promote it that it's come out, play, learn, have fun, and make friends, I think that's the important part about it.
So I would be happy to put my son on your team.
That's right.
Because some of the coaches in South Florida do not have that philosophy.
Not exactly that.
So,
listen, it can be intense. There's no question in my mind that they can be
But we
intense.
love your optimism.
Yes, optimism. And I would say I would fully endorse that as a coaching philosophy.
Right. And that optimism has certainly helped Polestar in its
and I
growth.
think it clearly will continue to help Polestar in the future.
For sure. AJ, we can't thank you enough for joining us and helping us learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing and sharing your thoughts on the EV world.
Yes,
absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you, AJ. It's been a blast. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.